and it's a classic French crust called Pâte Brisée, and it's not the flaky pie crust. It's got sort of a tart crust, shortbready tenderness. It's really good. But most importantly, you don't have to worry about keeping things cold or overworking the dough. It's really, really simple. So what I've got here is some all-purpose flour. And here's my little trick. I'm gonna mix in a little bit of rice flour. And rice flour is completely gluten-free, so it reduces the total amount of gluten and it prevents your crust from being tough, makes it more tender. A little bit of salt, get that mixed up, and then right on to a work surface. And I'm going to go in with my butter. Now this butter is actually softened, so it's been sitting at room temperature. This is why I love this recipe. Before, when I make flaky pie crust, I'd have to freeze the butter, and if I'm in Thailand, forget it, it's always way too hot. I gotta turn on the AC. Toss this in the flour, and then I'm gonna rub it in with my fingers until it's crumbly and there's no more big pieces. All right, so now that it's all crumbly like this, now I'm gonna make a well in the center again. Okay, liquid ingredients. I've got an egg yolk right here. It's going to make the crust richer. Some water, which I'm going to mix in. And use my tiny little whisk. Beat that together. Pour the liquid into the center. And then use your finger to gradually stir everything into the middle. And then once it's becoming sort of thick like that, gather all your dry stuff and kneading it into the center. So once it's sort of smooth, we're gonna do a technique that the French call fraisage. You're basically taking this dough and you're using the palm of your hand to smear it across the counter. And that's to get rid of any big lumps of butter that's still sitting in the dough. See, it's nice to be able to make a pie crust and not have to worry about how many times you touch the dough, because that's with flaky pie crust, I'm always so paranoid about, oh my gosh, I've touched the dough too much. It's not gonna be good anymore. And this dough is a classic dough that's used for quiche as well. So any sort of custard-based pie or tart. Try to knead together any sort of big cracks in the dough. And now we're gonna let this chill in the fridge for 30 minutes. The gluten needs to relax so that when we roll it out, it doesn't try to shrink back. It'll be a lot easier to work with. So the dough has been chilling for 30 minutes. Now try not to chill it for more than 30 minutes, because what happens is it gets too hard, the butter hardens, and then it's impossible to roll, and then you gotta let it come to room temperature again to soften it up. So if you have to do it overnight, that's fine, but then you'll have to pull it out ahead of time and let it come to temperature and soften. So I've got that dough now. I'm just gonna roll it. I'll show you a little trick. It's what I learned in culinary school, is when you try to dust the table with flour, instead of sprinkling it when you get big clumps, just kind of throw it. It becomes a lot more even like that, and it's so much more fun. There you go. You can throw it on top. Yeah. And now roll it to about 1/8 of an inch thick to prevent the edges from cracking too much. The edges are going to crack a little bit as you roll. Don't try to push it down really hard all at once. Slowly and gently, and the cracks will be very small, and it's more easily patched towards the end. And as I go, I like to just patch the crack up a little bit, just so keep it under control. I'm going to transfer that onto my pie plate. So you kind of got to do this gently. The good news is that it also patches back much more easily than flaky pie dough. So if you break it, it's okay. You just knead it back together and no one will know. Lift it up and then you place it back down. Ta-da! Always so exciting. Okay, so now it's important that it rests right up against the pie plate. So lift and push till you feel it really come up against the edge. Now I'm just gonna trim off the edges right up against the pie plate. Clean this up a little bit, pressing it together so it's smooth. It doesn't have to be perfect. Rusticity is a trendy thing these days. And now to decorate it, I like to just use a fork and just press along the edges to create a design, a really simple design. You don't need to crimp it, do anything crazy. Okay, and now I'm just going to dock the bottom of the pie. If there's any air bubbles, it'll allow them to escape through these holes, and so you won't get big bumps and lumps in your pie. That's good. Now I'm gonna let this rest in the fridge for 10 more minutes, and we want to do that because we've just worked the gluten in the dough. If we bake it right now, the gluten is very tight and elastic and it likes to shrink. If we let it rest, it won't shrink as much. Okay, so let this sit in the fridge. See you in 10. All right, we're ready to bake the pie, but you want to par bake the crust first, and we're going to blind bake it. And what that means is we're going to bake it with some pie weight on top. So I've got here a piece of parchment paper, and what I'm going to do is, here's again my trick, wrinkle it up. Because I find that when it's wrinkled, it conforms better to the shape. When it's straight, it's all stiff. I'm gonna put some pie weight, which in my case is rice, because you can probably guess that I have an abundance of rice at my house. But you can do beans, they actually sell pie weights, but anything that is heat resistant, heavy enough, just go around and make sure that it's sort of right up against the edge, and this will prevent the pie from shrinking as it bakes. I'm gonna bake this in a 350-degree oven for 20 minutes. You want to make sure this gets baked on the very bottom shelf to move your rack all the way to the bottom. Now I'm going to pull out the pie weight ever so carefully. The worst thing to happen is to have the rice spilling everywhere. Let it hang out there. And so, by the way, you can reuse this as many times as you want. I have no idea how many times I've used them. I just keep using them over and over and over again. Now I'm gonna put this pie back in, and as you can see, it's still a little moist in the middle. So we wanna take out the rice and let it bake for 5 more minutes to let the bottom sort of dry up. And then the crust will be perfectly blind baked. So I'll tell you what I do with these scraps is, you could throw it out, but what I like to do is I try to patch them back together. And then I roll it just to get it kind of smooth. And then what I do is I cut them into just small pieces and I bake this up, and then they become sort of like little crackers, and I just eat it with cheese, with the spread or whatever. I mean, it's better than just wasting them, right? They're perfectly good. They just don't look very good, but I just have sort of a Ziploc bag of these and I eat them with cheese.